I never expected betrayal to come from the woman I sacrificed everything for. It was supposed to be just another quiet Sunday night. I had just returned to my hotel room in Providence after a real estate summit when my phone buzzed with a message from my younger cousin, Riley. "You need to see this. I'm sorry," she wrote, followed by a link to her latest live stream. I clicked it out of curiosity, then froze. There she was, my mother, Eleanor, holding a wine glass at our family's dining room table, her voice slurred with judgment and Chardonnay. "Oh, please," she said with a dramatic eye roll. "My daughter thinks selling homes makes her successful. She flunked out of nursing school and now just drifts around like a washed-up failure." I felt like the floor had vanished beneath me. My breath shortened. I stared, numb, as laughter echoed from my aunts and uncles in the background. They didn't know Riley had left her camera running, but I heard everything. "My name is Rachel Monroe. I'm 33 years old, and for the past 5 years, I've single-handedly managed my mother's medical care. Rheumatoid arthritis had knocked her off her feet, literally and financially. I canceled nursing school, pivoted to real estate to pay her bills, and spent nights driving her to appointments while juggling clients during the day. I paid for her meds, her premiums, her specialists. She never had to worry, and yet, this moment stripped every justification I'd ever given myself for her cruelty. It wasn't just her pain talking. It wasn't generational, tough love. It was contempt. Ungrateful, calculated contempt. I sat in my hotel chair, unable to move. I'd believed we had a bond, two women navigating life after my father's passing. But I realized now, I'd been alone in that belief. The woman who once tucked me in when I had fevers, who worked double shifts to put food on the table, was now the same one mocking my sacrifices to an audience of family and strangers. And worse, she didn't even know she was being recorded. This was her truth. The next morning, as I loaded my car for the 2-hour drive back to Connecticut, I wasn't the same woman who had checked into that hotel. Something had ruptured, and there would be no going back. How many of us, mothers, daughters, caregivers, have sacrificed silently, believing loyalty would one day be acknowledged? When love is measured in years of devotion but dismissed in a single sentence, what do we owe to those who never truly saw us? At what point does loyalty become self-betrayal? The morning sun filtered through the cracked windshield as Rachel Monroe gripped the steering wheel, her mind spiraling with every mile closer to home. Providence faded in the rearview mirror, but the words from her mother's livestream burned clearer than ever. "She's just drifting through life, a desperate failure." Rachel had made that drive countless times, visiting clients, attending conferences. But this was the first time she wasn't returning as a daughter. At least, not the same kind. Her small home in New Haven stood unchanged, a modest 2-story rental with ivy crawling up the side, just as it had for years. But Rachel wasn't walking into that house as someone silently loyal anymore. She was stepping in as a woman with proof and a plan. She placed her laptop bag on the dining room table and opened the folder labeled Medical is Mom. Inside was a chronicle of 5 years of sacrifice, pharmacy receipts, printed insurance statements, digital records of copays and procedures, meticulously sorted, dated, highlighted, over $120,000. That's what Rachel had quietly poured into her mother's health and stability, all while working 60-hour weeks, navigating an unforgiving real estate market, and delaying every personal milestone she once dreamed of. There were unopened nursing school letters in her desk drawer. Birthday invitations declined. Even a promising relationship she'd let go, because the timing never worked, because Eleanor always needed her. And for what? A video that exposed Eleanor's disdain, not just for her daughter's career, but for her very worth. The phone buzzed with a message. Riley, her 16-year-old cousin, who had unknowingly recorded the livestream, had written, "Are you okay? I can take the video down if you want." Rachel stared at the screen, then replied, "No." "Leave it up. I'm coming to see you." The coffee shop on Whitman Street was buzzing when Rachel arrived. Riley spotted her immediately and stood up, nervously tugging at the sleeves of her hoodie. "I'm really sorry," she said, before Rachel even sat down. "I didn't know she was going to say all that." Rachel shook her head. "You didn't do anything wrong. In fact, you did something I couldn't do for myself." She laid the folder on the table and opened it. Riley leaned forward, flipping through the pages in silence. Her eyes widened at the figures. "You paid for all this?" "Every dime," Rachel said, while she told the world I was aimless and useless. Riley's hands trembled slightly as she turned another page. "She's lying to everyone." "Not anymore," Rachel replied. Her voice was calm now, steady. "I've already drafted the paperwork to remove myself from every account: insurance, pharmacy, doctor's office. I'm transferring the rest of the medical savings to my personal account. It's time I go back to school." Riley blinked. "You're going back to nursing?" Rachel nodded. "I start this fall, and I'm not postponing again." For the first time in years, Rachel felt something break loose inside her. Not anger, not regret, but space. Space to rebuild. That night, she typed out a formal resignation as her mother's financial guarantor. She called the insurance company, requested all statements be redirected to Eleanor's address, and arranged for automatic payments to be canceled. By morning, her phone was flooded with texts: missed appointments, declined cards, frantic demands. Rachel silenced the phone. She was done. She wasn't angry anymore. She was clear. Clear that she'd given more than enough. And clear that it was finally her turn to live. Rachel Monroe stood at her kitchen counter, sifting through the final stack of documents. The soft morning light slanted through the window, catching the edge of the letter she'd just received from the insurance company. Confirmation that her removal as guarantor was official. Her hands were steady. Her mind, for once, uncluttered. But her phone was anything but quiet. Her mother had already left 6 voicemails that morning, each message more frantic, more demanding. "Why was my insurance card declined?" "You better fix this, Rachel. I can't afford these meds." "Are you ignoring me now? Don't be a child." Rachel tapped the screen and set her phone to silent. She had spent too many years answering panic with action, but today she was answering with boundaries. By mid-afternoon, she had cleared every account, cut every automatic draft, and drafted one final message: an email addressed to her extended family. Subject: regarding Mom's medical care. "Dear family, I want to inform you all that I will no longer be managing or financially supporting Eleanor Monroe's medical treatment. Over the past 5 years, I've paid more than $120,000 toward her care, including insurance premiums, medications, specialists, transportation, and therapy. I made these sacrifices quietly, and I never expected repayment. But I did hope for decency. Attached is a full breakdown of all payments, organized by year. Going forward, I encourage those of you who care about her well-being to reach out to her directly. She may require your help. This is not a decision I made lightly, but it is one I made fully. Rachel." She hit send. It was done. Within hours, her inbox exploded. Some responses were predictable. Aunt Melanie called her decision cold and ungrateful. Uncle Carl asked if she was having some kind of emotional breakdown. A few messages simply said, "Wow," or "Unbelievable," but one stood out. "It takes courage to stand up for yourself. Call me if you need anything." Aunt Lorraine. Rachel let out a shaky breath. That message, just one sentence, meant more than the dozen criticisms combined. The fallout wasn't over. At 8:47 p.m., her doorbell rang. She froze. She hadn't told anyone she was home. Carefully, she looked through the peephole. Her mother stood on the porch, arms crossed, jaw clenched. "Rachel, open this door. Right now." She didn't move. "You've missed 3 of my calls. My prescription was denied at the pharmacy. What the hell are you doing?" Rachel took a breath, her voice calm and measured. "You'll be getting a letter from the insurance company this week. Please read it carefully." "What?" Her mother's voice cracked. Is this about money? After everything I've done for you? That nearly made Rachel laugh. Goodbye, Mom. Please don't come back. She turned from the door and walked away, ignoring the banging behind her. For the first time, she didn't feel like a villain. She felt like someone who had finally said enough. 3 days later, she walked into the admissions office at Bridgeport School of Nursing. Her transcripts had been reinstated. The counselor, a kind woman named Susan, smiled over her glasses. You'll need to take a placement exam. You've been out of school for a few years. I've already started reviewing, Rachel replied, her voice bright for the first time in weeks. As she walked across campus afterward, something inside her clicked into place. The weight she'd been carrying for 5 years, financially, emotionally, physically, was no longer hers alone. She felt it with every step. She wasn't coming here out of guilt or duty. She was walking toward the life she wanted. That night, a package arrived from the insurance company, a letter addressed to her mother, but mistakenly sent to her address. It detailed premium increases and reduced coverage options due to Rachel's withdrawal as guarantor. Rachel didn't even hesitate. She slipped the letter into a new envelope with a note. This came to my address. I suggest you read it carefully. No signature, no emotion, just facts. The next morning, she dropped it in the mailbox on her way to show a listing. The client loved the home. Rachel felt sharp, focused, alive. That evening, her phone rang again. An unfamiliar number. She let it go to voicemail. Then another message. This time from Riley. You won't believe this. Your mom's telling everyone in the family chat that you're unstable, that your business is failing and you've snapped. Rachel didn't even flinch. Classic, she whispered. She moved in with Aunt Melanie, says it's temporary. You think she'll show them the video? Rachel smiled faintly. Not a chance. She opened her laptop and pulled up the saved livestream, Jenna's unfiltered accidental truth bomb. There it was. Her mother, glass of wine in hand, speaking with venom masked as sarcasm. Rachel's finger hovered over the play button. Then she closed the laptop. She didn't need to prove anything to anyone who hadn't cared to ask for her side. She had her truth. And finally, she had her peace. It had been 2 weeks since Rachel sent the email that severed her role as caretaker. The silence from most of her extended family was almost deafening, but peaceful. No calls, no ambushes, just space, but peace has a way of drawing confrontation out of hiding. Rachel had just finished showing a 3-bedroom colonial in Norwalk. As she stepped out of the house and headed toward her car, she noticed 2 figures waiting near the parking lot. Her stomach dropped. It was her mother and Aunt Melanie. Her mother leaned against her silver sedan, cane in one hand, her lips pursed in that familiar mixture of exhaustion and manipulation. Aunt Melanie stood a few steps behind, arms crossed, clearly bracing for something. Rachel paused at the curb. She could have turned and walked the other way. But the look in her mother's eyes wasn't just guilt. It was intent. She took a deep breath and walked toward them, her keys clutched tightly in her fist. Rachel, her mother began, her tone artificially soft. We need to talk. Rachel didn't break stride. I have nothing to say. Aunt Melanie stepped forward. Your mother's medication costs have tripled. She can't get appointments with her specialists anymore. She's really struggling. Rachel nodded once, coolly. Is that what she told you? She can barely afford her copays. What I wanted, Rachel said slowly, was to be treated with basic respect. What I wanted was to feel like my sacrifices mattered. Instead, I was mocked. On video, behind my back. Her mother blinked. What video? Rachel narrowed her eyes. The live stream, at dinner. The one where you called me a failure and laughed at the career I built to support you. Aunt Melanie's brows drew together. What is she talking about? Her mother's mask cracked for a split second, a flicker of panic. Then she switched tactics. That's being twisted out of context. I was venting. Everyone vents. Rachel didn't flinch. Not like that. Not when someone has given you 5 years of their life. I dropped out of nursing school to take care of you. I paid every bill, I held your hand through every appointment. And still, I wasn't enough. You're being dramatic, her mother snapped. After everything I've done for you. No, Rachel said, her voice rising for the first time. Let me tell you what I did. I put my career, my relationships, and my health on hold. I paid over $100,000 so you could see the best specialists and never miss a treatment. And while I was doing all that, you laughed behind my back. You made me the punchline at a dinner table full of people who should have defended me. Aunt Melanie stood frozen. Wait, is that true? Rachel turned to her. She didn't tell you? She's been spinning the story to make me look like the unstable one. Her mother's voice cracked. I'm your mother, Rachel. You don't walk away from family. Rachel tilted her head, her voice steady and sharp. Number. You're right. Family doesn't walk away from each other. But family also doesn't tear each other down and call it love. There was a moment of stunned silence. The parking lot, once just asphalt and white lines, suddenly felt like a courtroom. I'm done explaining myself, Rachel said. If you want to know what happened, Aunt Melanie, I'll send you the video. She walked to her car, unlocked it, and paused with her hand on the door. I hope she's okay, she added, voice softening just a touch. But I'm not going back to being her crutch. That evening, Rachel returned home exhausted but lighter. She poured herself a glass of sparkling water and opened her laptop. Her nursing school placement exam was scheduled for Friday. She'd been reviewing for weeks, and for the first time since her 20s, her dreams didn't feel deferred. They felt near. By Thursday, she had adjusted her real estate schedule to allow for weekend studying. She met with a local college student named Kylie, whom she planned to hire part-time for admin support and client coordination. The business would shift, but it wouldn't stop. She could finally balance both lives. On Friday, Rachel took the placement exam. The questions were challenging, but not unfamiliar. Her old textbooks had become friends again, reminding her of who she used to be before her life became an endless cycle of caretaking and sacrifice. That night, she submitted her final re-enrollment form. Later that weekend, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Aunt Melanie. I saw the video. I don't even know what to say. I believed everything she told me. I'm sorry. Rachel didn't know how to respond at first, but eventually she typed, "Thank you for watching it. That means more than you know." By the following Monday, Rachel's name was back on the official nursing roster. The same girl who once stood in hospital hallways as a caregiver was now returning as a student. Not for someone else's crisis, but for her own calling. The sun had barely broken through the clouds when Rachel stepped out of her car, arms full with showing materials for a new listing. She was walking toward the side entrance of a beautifully restored Victorian in Trumbull when she noticed a familiar figure leaning against a nearby car. Her breath caught. It was her mother. And standing beside her, arms crossed, was Aunt Melanie. Rachel's first instinct was to turn around, get back in the car, and drive off. But they'd already seen her. Running now would only delay the inevitable. She exhaled and approached, steadying her pace. "Rachel!" her mother called out, her voice unusually soft. "We need to talk." Up close, her mother looked different. Her hair was unstyled, her eyes a little hollow. She leaned heavily on a cane, something Rachel knew she only used when she wanted to drive sympathy home. "I've already said what I needed to say," Rachel replied calmly. "She's been struggling," Aunt Melanie interjected. "Her insurance is a mess. Her prescriptions are delayed. She can't get in to see her specialists." "And now," Rachel said coldly, "that burden falls on someone else. As it should." Her mother's expression tightened. "I didn't ask for this disease. I didn't choose to need help." "No," Rachel said, her voice sharper now, "but you chose how you treated the person who gave up everything to help you." Her mother blinked. "I don't know what you mean." Rachel narrowed her gaze. "You mocked me in front of the whole family, said I was a failure, said selling homes made me pathetic. That's not fair. It's the truth, and it's recorded." Riley captured every word. I heard you say it, Mom. I heard you laugh. For a second, Eleanor Monroe looked like a woman who'd run out of air. Her mouth opened, then closed. She turned toward her sister. You didn't tell me there was a video, Aunt Melanie said slowly. Her mother ignored her. It was out of context. I was venting. You know how people talk over dinner. Rachel shook her head. I know how people betray each other behind closed doors, and I know what it costs to ignore it. You're twisting this, Eleanor snapped, her voice rising. I raised you on my own. I worked 2 jobs. I sacrificed everything so you could go to college. Rachel felt the burn in her chest again, but this time it didn't consume her. And I honored that, she said quietly. I came home when you got sick. I dropped out of school. I paid for your specialists, medications, therapy. I gave you my time, my savings, my future. Her mother looked away. And in return, Rachel continued, you stripped me down in front of people I once trusted. You told them I had no direction, no success, no value. I didn't mean it, her mother whispered. You did, Rachel said. You just didn't mean for me to hear it. A long silence stretched between them. Aunt Melanie shifted her weight. Rachel, I'm sorry. I should have asked for your side of things sooner. I've seen the video, and I saw what you've sent. The records, the receipts. I had no idea. Rachel met her gaze. Thank you for saying that, but I'm not here to fix anything. Her mother's voice cracked. Then why did you come? Rachel reached into her tote bag and pulled out something wrapped in a velvet cloth. She unwrapped it slowly and placed it on the hood of her mother's car. The crystal trophy shimmered in the morning light. Resilience in real estate, Rachel Monroe, it read. I won this last week, she said. The same night you were in the hospital. Her mother looked confused. What? I built a business while managing your entire healthcare plan. I kept it afloat while everyone thought I was just playing dress-up. And now I'm going back to finish my nursing degree, on my terms. Not as your daughter, not as your caregiver, but as Rachel. Eleanor's eyes welled up, but Rachel didn't soften. I'm not coming back. I'm not your safety net, and I won't be guilted into pretending I was never hurt. Her mother's voice cracked. I don't know how we got here. Rachel stared at her for a long moment. You stopped seeing me as a person. You only saw what I could give you, and now I'm choosing to give to myself. She stepped away from the car and turned to Aunt Melanie. Take care of her if you choose to, but do it with both eyes open. Then she got into her car and drove off, leaving the trophy behind like a signature carved in glass. She didn't need her mother's apology. She had her truth, and it no longer required permission to exist. The ballroom glowed in soft amber light, filled with the hum of conversation, the clinking of glasses, and the occasional burst of laughter. Rachel Monroe stood near the back of the room, her name printed in silver on the program resting in her hand. She hadn't planned to attend the awards ceremony. For years, she'd skipped industry events, too buried in caregiving and deadlines to show up for herself. But when her broker nominated her for the Resilience in Real Estate Award, Rachel took it as a sign that someone had noticed. She wore a navy blue dress, simple but elegant, her first real purchase for herself in years that wasn't work-related. As she sipped sparkling water, a familiar voice called out, Rachel Monroe? She turned and found Margot Klein, a high-profile broker she'd once admired from a distance. I've heard about your work in the Trumbull and Brookline markets. Impressive stuff. Rachel smiled. Thank you. I've had a busy year. They chatted for a few minutes before the lights dimmed and the ceremony began. Rachel took her seat, half expecting someone else's name to be called. But then, this year's Resilience in Real Estate Award goes to Rachel Monroe. For a moment, she didn't move. The applause brought her back to herself. She stood, hands steady, and walked to the stage. The trophy felt cool and solid in her hands, nothing like the intangible praise she'd begged for over the years. She leaned toward the microphone. Thank you, she began, her voice stronger than she expected. The past few years have been complex. Balancing a career while managing personal obligations isn't easy, but real estate and life requires adaptability, endurance, and grace under pressure. She paused, letting the silence settle. This award isn't just a professional milestone. It's proof that resilience isn't quiet sacrifice. It's choosing to keep showing up for yourself, even when no one else does. She stepped down to a standing ovation. That night, as she rode the elevator to her apartment, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "It's Riley. I'm at the hospital with your mom." She fell. "They're saying it might be a reaction to her meds. Uncle David's here too. They want you to call." Rachel stared at the message. The familiar tug of responsibility pulled at her chest. But it was different now. Measured. She called the number back. "Is she stable?" Rachel asked calmly. "Yes," Riley said. "They're keeping her overnight for observation." "I appreciate the update," Rachel replied. "Let the doctors know I'll be there later tonight. I just left an event." "Okay," Riley said. "She's asking for you." Rachel didn't respond. She ended the call and changed out of her dress. An hour later, she stepped into the hospital room. Her mother was sitting up, surprisingly alert. Uncle David sat nearby, tense. "Nice of you to show up," Eleanor snapped. Rachel placed the trophy, still in its velvet bag, on the small table beside the bed. "I came because the doctors might need medical history, not because I owe you anything." Her mother scoffed. "I'm your mother." "I know," Rachel said. "And I was your caretaker, for 5 years." She unwrapped the trophy, the engraved glass catching the fluorescent light. "This is what I built while you were tearing me down." Her mother's mouth opened, but no words came. Rachel stepped back, voice even. "You'll be discharged tomorrow. I've made sure your insurance paperwork was mailed to your new address. What you choose to do with your life now is up to you." She turned to leave, then paused. "I don't hate you," she added softly, "but I don't owe you my life anymore." And with that, Rachel walked out. Not angry, not broken, but finally whole. There comes a time in life when caregiving and love begin to blur into obligation and silence. Rachel's journey reminds us that devotion, while noble, should never come at the cost of our own dignity. Many older adults know the weight of sacrifice, raising children, caring for aging parents, holding families together. But what happens when that sacrifice becomes expected? And worse, unacknowledged? The most important lesson here is this. Setting boundaries isn't abandonment. It's an act of self-preservation. Rachel gave her youth, her career, and her heart to someone who took her for granted. And when the truth surfaced, she didn't lash out. She stepped back. Calmly, clearly, completely. For older adults who have spent decades giving, this story offers a powerful reminder. Your worth isn't tied to how much you endure, but to how honestly you live. It's never too late to reclaim your path, to say no more, and to walk towards something that belongs only to you. Let Rachel's courage inspire your own, because the freedom to define your life, even late in the game, is not just possible, it's necessary.